Alright guys, welcome back to time-lapse number 3 for Abelia County. So super stoked about this one. We kind of take a different turn in terms of the direction that we initially were kind of deciding to go. But first things first, what we're building here is a McDonald's. So I feel like it's kind of just a staple, like first building every time we kind of start fresh with the city is to get the Dons. You got to have the Dons first, right? So I found this one online by this YouTuber here. I'm not really sure how to pronounce names, so I'm not even going to try. However, I encourage you to go check them out. They have some amazing builds that will likely be seen even more so in the future on this city. So I'm super excited about this. This is a very kind of modern McDonald's, and so I think that's cool. I kind of like the modern feel. But it wasn't like anything super crazy looking in terms of the modernity. But another one little small issue that I'm kind of having with this building so far, I mean, not that I think the building itself looks great. You'll see here, you can kind of see the actual finished building part now, but is the scale. It does seem a little big. I'm not quite sure. I think the real test is going to be to like put a car next to it. We're kind of using the car as like our scale because obviously it goes well with the roads. And so I think the best thing to do is kind of build a drive-through around it, build a car that'll go around it, and just then kind of see from there. I think the scale is honestly going to be fine. It really isn't that big of a building. So I'm not too worried about it. It does seem a little bit big at first, but I have seen some quite large McDonald's in real life. So I'm not too worried about it, but obviously it is important to kind of nail this scale that we have right here in terms of the buildings, because really all of the future buildings are going to go from this. So it's important. Now here I am trying to find that kind of like McDonald's just sign, like the, I guess the logo. That's not just the M, like the actual McDonald's like spelled out logo. And I couldn't really find a good PNG of this. So I said, you know what, actually I'm just going to do the, put McCafe, like you kind of see that pretty often. So here's another one. Yeah, I just could not find one. it was so tough. It was kind of dumb. I was like, well, you know what? I don't even care. It's probably going to be hard for it to look good anyways. So let me just do the McCafe logo because I think it looks really cool, and I think it should look good on this type of building, you know, kind of a more breakfast-oriented McDonald's. Whatever. So yeah, that's what I go for here. Unfortunately, I don't get around to doing the parking lot or the drive-through yet. I kind of just build the building because Slaw at this point gets on with me, and he's like, yo, I want to work on this instead. I was like, okay, that's fine. I can always come back to this. So you guys probably won't see me finish that building, like with the parking lot and everything, until a future time lapse. Hopefully, I think on next time lapse, I'll probably go ahead and just finish it off and I incorporate it into the road system there. But yeah, you can see it there. I'm going to slow down the footage so you guys can get a good sense of it. Now, at this point, where are we? So we're up in this top part of the map. You can see Slaw there. And essentially, we're that little delta, I guess. I don't know what you would call this, but this little river kind of goes through the top left part of the map. I'll show the map again right here. Just the very top left part where it's kind of like a smaller island. That's where we are, and we're coming at it from the, I guess kind of from the south. And essentially what we did is we lined it up with Interstate 75. I lined it up perfectly with it so that it'll be straight shot, straight to it. And essentially what he wanted to do was kind of build an elevated interstate throughout this part. It's pretty common to see, like through a busy downtown area, to see an elevated interstate. So that's exactly what we're doing here. I'm trying to think. I think there's a pretty famous example in like Seattle. There's kind of an elevated interstate, stuff like that. But anyways, it's pretty common to see in these pretty downtown areas. And so that's exactly what we're going through, or doing right here, I guess I should say. And so yeah, so we built it up about 12 blocks high, I think is what this kind of is. And so yeah, you can see now here I'm splitting it, and then I have to world edit this like very far down. We're also deciding on the border type here. Initially, I kind of looking at these two colors. I was like, yo, Slaw, which one do you like better? And he liked the gray, which I did. I ended up liking that one better as well. And so this block here is actually a little bit different than the just concrete road. This is actually still tarmac, but it is like a light tarmac is what it is. And so I thought this light tarmac would look a lot better kind of as, as the elevated one versus just the really dark one. I feel like you really only see that dark kind of asphalt when it's like, on the actual ground on the earth. And so, yeah, I think this is going to look good. So at this point, we are kind of sending this part down. We're sending sending it down. And I don't know if I showed the journey map yet. I think I do at some point. But we're about halfway down, closer to kind of the actual river that's down there. We went about halfway down, and then now we're sending it back down because we do anticipate a lot of this area to be pretty dense in terms of city. Of course, we wanted to leave a little bit of area that's going to be kind of empty or just smaller towns. But at the same time, I do expect most of where this elevated interstate is going to be to have, a good bit of development in terms of city development. And, it could totally be subject to change. We're not, nothing's really hard set in stone. It doesn't really take too long to change something, change an idea. So I'm really not too worried about it at all. Now, at this point, I thought a good idea. Here's something I've kind of never done before. And it was just built like kind of a slab structure under the bridge instead of just doing like supports or doing like a mound, an earth mound. And I thought really this type kind of made the most sense. I'll show a reference image right here of kind of what I was basing this off of, just in a way. Because I think this is a pretty common thing you might see, to see just kind of this like slab structure under the bridge, supporting it, at least till you get to the up part. And so, yeah, that's what I decided to do here. Now at this point, I get done doing the pattern on both sides. And I noticed that like kind of under the bridge, something just felt lacking. There wasn't a lot of depth. And so from that reference image I just showed you guys, you could kind of see those like weird like things under it that were just kind of like poking out. I guess it's just a part of the construction or how it's built. But anyways, I thought if I added it into here, it would end up looking really good. And it does. It really just kind of adds that depth and structure to the interstate. That gives it a much more 3D feel, a much more realistic feel. And I think it really works for this interstate here. So yeah, this is so long, as you guys can see on the map as I'm kind of like spazzing it really quickly. But this interstate is so long that I literally have to teleport. I have to use my waypoints to actually teleport in between each end of it because it is so long, which is really funny. But yeah, so at this point, I get done kind of adding those beams going across each side of the interstate. And now I kind of have to add supports, obviously. This thing can't just be floating, or I guess it could. It is Minecraft, but we want it to look a little more realistic than that. So this here is going to be my first design, which I end up going with, but I thought I would leave it in here anyways. Just, stuff happens, ideas change, and I think it's important to kind of include that, not just necessarily go with the end pretty result. As you can see, it doesn't look too bad. I even try to like add some kind of more maybe 3D-ness to this, and add some like, yeah, see, like kind of make it look like that. And it doesn't look horrible, but it just seemed a little clunky when I kind of finished it at the very end. It just looked a little too big, I think, for this interstate. I was like, yeah, this is probably not necessary, to have something this large. And so, yeah, here I am trying to save it in any way possible, but I was like, once you get to a certain point, with builds like this, you kind of just have to like, once you get too far, there's kind of no saving it. It's just like, let's start fresh, let's build new. And so that's what I decided to do here. So yep, here we go up again. And this time I tried to make it, I was like, all right, let me try to make it just a little bit smaller, and then I can kind of add the details if I need to. And yeah, you can see, I still kind of wanted to add a little bit more depth to it. And that ended up looking, pretty well. Yeah, you can see there, it's just like small enough. to not look comically large, but it also looks like it would get the job done in real life. Like it definitely looks like it would support it well. And so now at this point, all that's left is, and this is why World Edit is just such an amazing thing, as we simply just could not build near as fast and to the same scale without World Edit and schematics and things like that. So, this is huge, just to be able to actually sit here and copy and paste these all the way down. I mean, that's something that would take probably an hour to do by hand, build them all, like line it up and everything. And it ends up, taking 2 minutes. Now at this point, go ahead and cut to this part. And so really all that's kind of left to do is we decided, I think what Slaw wants to do, and I'm totally down for this, is he wants to build out this mini island here. He actually wants to go ahead and put all like the skyscrapers and stuff like that. He wants to really go ahead and flesh it out because he says, he thinks once we build that kind of island, then it's like we'll have that sector done, right? And I thought that was a good idea. I was like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And so a part of, essentially laying out this road network and what we're going to do with it, we're like, okay, we'll go ahead and build the bridge over to the island. And I'll go ahead and send it down here. And so, yeah, that's kind of our idea. That's our plan. So I'm sure in the next time lapses, you will be seeing us work in this area. We're going to be going for, skyscrapers and stuff like that. If I had to guess, in the next episode, we'll be doing the other side of the interstate. We'll kind of be trying to like link them up. And then once we get that interstate actually laid out for both sides of the island, then at that point, we'll probably go ahead and actually start doing buildings on it. Which I think will flow nicely as well, because our initial plan was to lay out the interstates for the entire island, which definitely would have taken a long time. And so it would have been like multiple time lapses without actually getting to buildings. And, for progress sake, it doesn't matter. For content sake, I would like to kind of, eventually get to actually doing some buildings. And so I think focusing on this main little island right here is going to work out great, because it's going to allow us to still be able to build roads, but also build buildings as well. So there's a really good mix within the actual time lapses themselves. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the direction we're going to take it, just so we don't focus too much on the roads. Of course, they're important. But if we sat and just, focused on interstates for too long, then chances are, we'd be 7-8 time lapses in, and we'd still be doing roads. And so I do want to incorporate some more buildings as soon as possible as well. Also, I forgot to cut this part out, but if you ever notice just me randomly pausing, it's probably me like alt tabbing out of the game so I can go and look at like a reference image or something like that. So ignore it. It's not your phone freezing or the actual video freezing. I do my best to kind of cut those out, but sometimes a few of them get missed just because I do, I am alt tabbing a good bit out of the game to look at reference images and things like that. So just do keep that in mind when you're watching these. And so, yeah, at this point, I think me and Slaw got pretty tired. So, we were just kind of looking at things, kind of going over things, talking about some ideas. But then we kind of ended this session. And then what I just got done doing, which to show you now. So yeah, here's a good view of the journey map, by the way. If you didn't see it earlier, you can kind of see just how long it actually is. It is quite long. And it's also connecting very nicely to that top island, where we're just going to send it down into a normal road. And yeah, that's where our, that's where the, that road will go into downtown. That'll be a downtown road. So that's going to be really cool. So here I am. I just did this kind of on my own by myself, but I said, all right, well, we can't just leave this for the bridge. It's not going to look good. I want something flashy. I want it. Of course, we are going to have some bridges probably that aren't really anything special, but this one that was going into downtown, it was probably going to be a big staple bridge. I wanted it to look nice. And so here I am just kind of experimenting with some things. And so I decided to go with the polished granite. I think it just has that kind of nice look for a bridge, kind of like a antique looking bridge. And so we'll see if we kind of want to go with maybe a more modern bridge in the future. I think what I do here is really good in terms of laying out the at least style of the bridge. but we can always go and change the blocks out. So I'll get Slaw to give me a kind of a second opinion. I think he will probably end up liking it a lot because I think it ends up looking great as well. But if we want to change the blocks for maybe something a little bit different, we can certainly do that as well. But I just feel like having the texture on the blocks as opposed to something like concrete that just has like kind of no texture, I think it'll end up looking a lot better doing it this way. And so here I am adding like kind of like an andesite casing to it, and immediately you can tell it just adds that depth that we're always looking for. And then I kind of wanted to add a pattern as well. I thought it would kind of give it a really distinct look, make it stand out. And of course, I think it really does. Just looking here at this pattern now, I guess it could change. You guys let me know what you think of that pattern. We could always change it to maybe something else. I think it looks good. I think it makes it look kind of vintage, kind of old. And in a sense, it almost makes it look like it's being supported that way. It's like a part of the support system. Or part of the actual structural integrity of the bridge itself. And so at this point, I kind of have like the main structure of it designed. I also, go ahead and try to finish off these supports here. And then the next thing I wanted to do is I wanted this to be a suspension bridge. I wanted it to be a cabled bridge. Just because, I wanted it to look like it was kind of older, right? It wasn't necessarily like something new. And so, yeah, this is probably going to be our one bridge that is kind of older, kind of more of like a Brooklyn Bridge type vibe. That's kind of some of the reference I got for this. And then I also used a little bit of the Golden Gate as well. And then I think on the other side of this little mini island, the one that runs east-west, kind of on the top right, I should say, of the mini island, I think we'll do a more modern bridge there. I think that will definitely be kind of the move in terms of bridges. I think we'll have one that's a little bit more up to date on the top right of this little island, and then this one here is going to be our vintage, kind of older one. I didn't want it to look too old, but at the same time, I wanted it to have some years for sure. And so here I am now. You can see I'm kind of trying to lay out what the actual cabled part is going to look like. And at this point, I was like, that's like a little too long. I don't think it really needs to be this long. And so I kind of decided to try again. I was like, okay, let me try to go down maybe this way. And then, yeah, so essentially kind of the theme I was getting as you kind of get closer to the support, it starts getting a little bit more steeper. And then it kind of like levels out as you get closer to the bottom. And so that's kind of the design, the style, I guess I should say, that I end up going with here. Is just to, you see, it gets longer and longer as it goes out. And I think that looks really good. Of course, that's just kind of the start of it. And so at this point, I wanted to add like kind of the actual little beams that go to it. And I wanted to make sure it was even as well. And so, yeah, here I am adding like the actual like cable ties, I guess is what it would be. And I think it looks good. I think it looks really good. Of course, it's hard to like actually do a diagonal cable, in terms, I don't really know how to describe it. It would definitely be hard to add actual diagonal cables in Minecraft. Maybe there's some way I could have figured it out, but I was like, really, I do really like that a lot. I think it looks organic. I think it looks, fluid and looks like something you'd see in real life, or at least in terms of Minecraft, it looks phenomenal. So I'm definitely probably going to leave it. Like I said, I'll get some second opinions from Slaw, and of course, you guys are open to leave your constructive criticisms in terms of what you were thinking. And so here in the middle, I kind of want to add maybe like a little design that ends up not being the final design I go with. But see, you can probably quickly see a little issue I have here, right? I built the supports. Excuse me. So I built the supports a little close to that side of the island, right? Because I was initially thinking of having two on each side. But once I saw kind of how long the cables were going to be, I decided to move it to the middle. Another thing you can see I decided to do here was I kind of wanted to make the side of the interstate kind of look like this was a part of the bridge as well. I think that's pretty common for you to see something like that. I think it looks really sick once you see kind of the end result here. Yep, I fill in the granite here and the andesite. So I think it ends up actually looking like really good. This right here, it just makes it look like the bridge is like more involved with the actual road. And so I think that looks really cool. It's going to be really neat at the very end to show you guys. Yeah, I had a lot of trouble world edit in the flip command. I need to actually look up actually how it works because I was flipping it every which way. Then at one point it was upside down and it had actually copied the water below it. So then water was falling out of the sky. It was fun, but I did figure it out. Because of course, once I built one, I just kind of wanted to flip it over to the other side, right? And so at this point, I did just make a cut here, but at this point, I do have it centered where I want it. And so now I just want to copy and paste it onto the other bridge. And unfortunately, I would say fortunately, unfortunately, there is only one block of space in the middle between the two bridges. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So I'm glad that they are this far apart because otherwise it would have been, I would have had to change the design completely. You can tell it is very tight. I'm gonna end up sticking with it. I don't think it's a big deal. Would I have preferred to there have been maybe a few more blocks of space in between? Yes, definitely. But there was at least one block and I was like, I'm okay with that. And so you can see the granite was kind of poking out here, but I was like, okay, what can I do for that? Oh, let me just add like one little sliver of road. It's not a big deal. It could just be like a little shoulder, you know, not a big deal at all to kind of just add that so it'll cover up the actual granite itself. And it'll still look smooth. It'll still look just fine. So especially once we get the road paints in. So I was getting kind of tired. I was like, well, I'll probably go ahead and just finish the bridge here. I at least have the main structure of it, right? But then I was like, well, might as well get this thing picture ready, right? Get it photo ready for the thumbnail, etc., etc. So I was like, all right, let me go ahead and add in just some of the road paints and everything else so I can get some good pictures of it. And so, yep, that's what we're going to go ahead and do here. Once again, we still don't have really any road signs. Eventually, we will add them. I need to go back and actually add them over by the overpass as well. Another thing I wanted to do too is go ahead and do the lighting for the bridge. I figured since, I was like, well, let's go ahead and set it to nighttime and we'll see what kind of lighting we want to actually do for this bridge. So, yep, there we go. I'll show you guys the lights in a minute. I already finished them. I just went ahead and cut it because I was having a lot of issues with World Edit and I didn't want it to kind of be in the way. Anyways, I think the lighting ends up looking very good. I'll go ahead and show you. I'm going to go to turn on my shaders here. Set it to night. You can see it really lights it up pretty well. The actual bridge itself is not really lit up, I would say. Like the actual top part of the bridge or the support is not really lit up, but the road is lit up fine. So we may add some more lights to the actual bridge itself, like kind of the top part and stuff. I think would be a good idea. Just to make sure you can really see the bridge well and that it actually looks pretty at night, right? So we'll probably add those in the near future. But anyways, guys, I think this was a great time lapse. I thank you guys so much for tuning in to these. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I'm not sure what we're doing yet because I haven't actually built anything yet. So I'm excited. We'll see what we do, and I'm sure we'll get to some building. So stay tuned for those. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.